No one really thought USC could hang on to that top spot all the way to the very end. Those people were wrong. It looks like USC is going to finish with the #1 overall ranked recruiting class. Not Georgia, not Ohio State, not Oregon, USC. And they did it the right way. I'm going to tell you about how they did it on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone, and welcome to Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is also the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, you pick the platform, you can download this audio. It's always going to be free. The show's always going to appreciate your support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Back in the day, Pete Carroll, when he was USC's head coach, he would encourage the recruits, hey, go take your visits. So that way, when they finally made up their minds, they know where they wanted to sign on the dotted line, right? I need everyone to keep two things in mind. One, when Pete Carroll was doing it, there was no early signing period, okay? That wasn't even part of the process. Back then, it was that first Wednesday of February every year. It was considered a national holiday reserved for, the next batch of, young men who are going to make their dreams come true. College football fans, they would get up early. They would park themselves in front of the TV, or if they had to go into work, it was on their computer. They were watching the commits just roll in. It either was on, ESPN or, West Coast. You would wait till 7 p.m. sometimes to get those last guys to commit, on Prime Ticket. What's Prime Ticket, Mark? If you know, you know. It's before Fox Sports West became Fox Sports West. Out here on the West Coast, it was known as Prime Ticket. Anyways, eventually, the guys were doing the ESPN thing, the Fox, Prime Ticket thing. And then all of a sudden, guys started making their own commitment videos. Really elaborate production type of stuff. Remember Iman Marshall's? That was pretty epic, pretty cool. But again, back when Pete Carroll was doing it, doing his thing, USC owned college football, right? There was a fence around Southern California. There was a fence around California, period. Everyone got USC scraps. And, there would be a guy every now and then who would, kind of throw a curveball, guy like DeAnthony Thomas or Deshaun Jackson. But for the most part, it was USC's world and everyone was just kind of living in it. Times have changed dramatically. USC's had some really good recruiting classes since Pete Carroll left, but it's just kind of been a roller coaster. And a lot of times it's just been middle of the road stuff when you're looking at the overall class rankings. They had some top 10 classes, but before Coach Riley showed up, especially at the tail end of the Clay Helton era, USC recruiting had just literally hit rock bottom. I mean, it was in the crapper. No other way to say it. So things have changed. Coach Riley, Lincoln Riley, he took over. There's now 2 signing periods. You have the transfer portal. That didn't exist when Pete Carroll was a coach. Players are getting paid, and I'm not just talking about NIL. I'm talking about revenue sharing. In fact, look, if you don't have a general manager now running the recruiting/bidding board, you're screwed. Recruiting is still the lifeblood of every single program. Always will be. Always has been, always will be. And you can, fill in a hole here and there using the transfer portal, especially if you evaluate well. But when it comes to recruiting now, today, it's different, right? The head coach is kind of just more of a figurehead. They're still the person that the players want to come and play for. Don't misunderstand me. But it's really the general manager that kind of sets the table, makes the rules, and this is what we're going to be doing during the recruiting process, during this cycle. Not just that season, but also, the season following as well. You have to always be one step ahead, so to speak. So USC went out. They poached Chad Bowden from Notre Dame. He brought that new energy. He brought the fence back. He put it around Southern California. And this is one of the reasons why USC's recruiting class is going to finish number one. Heavy emphasis on the local flavor. And then they went out of state and they started plucking NFL type of guys. That's what Pete Carroll used to do. Put a fence around Southern California and then go out and get the best guys at their position in the state. So that's why you're going to get the best cornerback in the state of Ohio, Albert Hill. That's why you're going to get the best running back from the state of Ohio, Sean Alston. That's why you're getting Luke Wafel from New Jersey, Jamion Winfield from Texas, Braden Jones, Jonas Williams from Illinois. I mean, the list goes on. I'm kind of rattling off names as I go here. But the other thing that Chad Bowden brought with him was one rule. Well, he brought different rules, but there was one rule in particular, non-negotiable. Once you commit to USC, you're done going on dates with other programs. Period. End of story. Don't talk about it. We don't care. Don't commit until you're ready. And when you're ready and you commit, you'll get taken care of. So this almost could have been a perfect recruiting class for USC. I mean, you have to go back to, what was it, June, when Xavier Griffin eventually decommitted. I think his decision, he's staying home. He's going to go to Alabama. There was that wide receiver, 3-star guy, Cohen Brown, from the state of Texas. He hung around with his commitment for USC for a couple minutes. Notre Dame said, all right, well, USC likes this guy. He's probably pretty good. They gave him an offer, and Cohen Brown is now committed to Notre Dame. As far as I can remember, he still is. And then the only other one, USC lost out on, if you want to look at it that way, was that junior college transfer, Jaquan Morris, the cornerback from Mississippi. Well, again, he found out, Chad Bowden, that rule really mattered. He was serious. Jaquan took that trip to Illinois. USC dropped him. He's now committed to the Fighting Illini. Everyone else in USC's 2026 recruiting class, every single one of them, all 35, are committed. They're sticking with USC on signing day. I mean, Georgia had a chance to probably pass up USC. Then all of a sudden, they took a late hit. Georgia took a late hit, not USC. The number one quarterback prospect in the country, Jared Curtis, he's from the state of Tennessee. He's staying home. He's going to Vanderbilt. I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, again, Tennessee's his home state, but how many times do you see a player pick Vanderbilt over Georgia? You would have to think at the last minute, Vanderbilt said, hey, you know what? Our program's on the rise. We got some money. We're willing to pay you. Come on in. Well, because of that, now all of a sudden Georgia's class ranking, I don't think they dropped from number 2, but all of a sudden they don't have a chance to pass up USC, and nobody else does either, especially if USC gets a couple of late flips. I've been telling you about Caden Dixon-Wyatt, the wide receiver from Mater Dei. He's having his signing ceremony at, I think it's like 7:30 in the morning at Mater Dei, so we'll know what he's doing. Chris Henry, the other wide receiver from Mater Dei. Well, USC's hat is on the table with Ohio State and Oregon. I think he still eventually stays with Ohio State. This is just more of a, I want some more. So his agent is doing his job for Chris Henry. But we'll see. You never know. But yeah, it's you're going to have, USC has 35 commits. 29 of those guys are planning to be early enrollees. That means they're going to be part of the January winter workouts at USC. I think I mentioned on an episode of Locked on USC last week or maybe earlier this week. I apologize. I don't remember which one. Sean Scott, he's actually going to be practicing with USC as they prepare for their bowl game, probably the Alamo Bowl. So think about that. 35 commitments. All 35 are planning to sign. 29 of them early enrollees. That's crazy. That is an insane number. I mean, that's discipline. Chad Bowden's no-visit policy worked almost to perfection, except for, Xavier Griffin. And yeah, you would always love to have that 5-star, but pulling a 5-star from Alabama, who grew up wanting to go to Alabama and has family who says, we really want you to go to Alabama, you're probably going to end up being a Crimson Tide, right? So whatever. Doesn't mean USC is done. Doesn't mean USC is done with this class. What I can tell you is there's going to be no drama. They're going to finish number 1. And so for all of you out there who are so dead set against that no visit policy, not only did it work, it's helping USC sign the number 1 ranked recruiting class. Think about that. Chad showed up in January. So he had a little bit of an effect with USC's final class in the 2025 class signing in February. And then that rule was put in place and everything as far as the spring transfer portal worked out to USC's benefit. So yeah, he comes over, puts a fence back around Southern California, gets the NIL working at an elite level right now. And now all of a sudden, you've got USC doing what people anticipate from USC every offseason. Maybe not have the number 1 ranked class, but at least have a top 5 class, right? And again, I'm not all about the stars. With that being said, you still want to go get the best players. And if USC is beating other programs like Ohio State, Oregon, Texas A&M for players, LSU, I mean, you pick a program, USC has gone head-to-head with them, and they've won a recruiting battle. That's what you want from USC. That's what Lincoln Riley is doing. That's what Chad Bowden is doing. That's what the entire staff is doing. And what I like about this rule is you're finding players who understand what the word commitment means, and you're starting to instill some discipline into this incoming class. And they're really tight-knit. I mean, 29 out of 35 early enrollees. It's going to be a fun spring camp in 2026 as well. Should be fun, at least. All right, so there you go. No one thought USC could do it. They did it. They are going, unless something strange happens, USC will finish with the number 1 ranked recruiting class. And that's a job well done. You're coming off of a 9-3 season. Yeah, I know I've been really critical about that. You still accept it. You like it, especially compared to what USC's had the previous 2 years. But you think, man, 10-2 was so within their grasp. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. 9-3. Put a smile on your face, and you look forward to this recruiting class coming in. All right, got a couple more segments to go. Next segment, we'll talk about what Coach Riley thinks about the month of December, the whole calendar thing. He has an opinion on what needs to be changed. And the men of Troy, hoops team, are they still undefeated? I'm going to tell you in the third segment, so stick around. NFL Sundays move really fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels totally different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're actually reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every moment, momentum swing, every highlight moment, all of that. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, and that's when it gets really exciting. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. You know how that happens, right? When that happens, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Jump into this moment. Check out Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Suddenly, they are like literally in the playoff hunt. They're playing at Green Bay this week. They're 6.5-point underdogs. You got Caleb covering with the Chicago Bears? Go check it out on FanDuel. There's a whole bunch of other stuff too. So if you like to play it big with player prop bets, those guys, those update as the guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It's going to keep you locked into every snap, every drive, every single possibility. So if you want to be in the middle of the action, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bet all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Once again, thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every single day. Keep telling everybody, don't forget it. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, smash that thumbs up, hit that bell notification so you don't miss an episode of Locked On USC. It's literally part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network. That's why you're here every single day. All right. So, again, #1 recruiting class. You would think USC would be front and center behind the microphone, Lincoln Riley standing behind the dais, braggadocious, right? Guess what? Not doing a signing day presser. And I know some of that, has some of you guys saying, well, why not? Is he taking another job somewhere? Are we waiting for the hammer to drop? No, that's not happening. Like I said, I know some of you are wondering why not, especially since USC, this is a little weird. So I understand why people are a little concerned, trying to figure out what's going on. USC put out a message on X, social media. They put it out, said, USC will not hold a press conference on National Signing Day. The Trojans are on the clock. Stay tuned for January 2026. That was it. That was the message. And it was just, like white cursive handwriting, fine print on a black background. It was like, it's kind of ominous looking. So I'm not sure what that means other than, it's a tease, obviously. And I think that means that USC isn't done adding to the roster. They have some more surprises maybe coming up. Maybe that's why. They want to wait till all the dust settles. They got all their ducks in a row and they can say, hey, check this out. You like what we did on National Signing Day during the early signing period? Look what we did. Look what we did on the whole. You didn't see this coming, did you? Just kind of throwing it out there. So again, I'm not sure what it means. I think it's a positive. I don't think USC would tease the negative. I mentioned this on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. The postseason prep, early signing period, players declaring for the transfer portal, not to mention coaches moving all over the place. December is like a really weird month for coaches. Way too much going on. Way too much. So the other day, Coach Riley was on the Trojans Live radio show. He does that, pretty much every week after a game. And he was doing kind of a wrap-up of 2025, even though it's still not over yet. He was asked his thoughts on the December calendar. This is what he had to say. It's a pretty lengthy quote, so bear with me. There's only, in my opinion, one way to fix all of this. You've got to have the national championship game somewhere around Christmas to New Year's. That's the only way it's going to work. You have high schools finishing their year, signing day, the high school calendar. You have college academic calendars and people getting in and out. You have semesters and quarter systems and different calendars there. And then you have a college football season. And then you have the different roster decisions that are having to happen. And the hard thing is, this isn't professional. In a professional league, you end the season, you make all the rules where you do all the stuff after. It's easy because you don't have anything else competing. To me, that's the only way that it's ever going to get fixed, is you have to move the national championship game. And obviously, you're going to have to make adjustments to the season to be able to play out a full season. Do you reduce games? People are going to have to figure that out. But this will not get fixed until that happens. You're going to always sacrifice something until that happens, and that'll be for the decision makers to make, end quote. So there's a lot there, right? I think everyone will agree. Everyone, coaches, fans, NCAA, nobody liked that players were, leaving playoff teams and bailing out on bowl games. I talked about this before. So they can all of a sudden jump into that December transfer portal. That everybody wanted to get paid. Well, you had that going on, and so guys are trying to get a head start on the next chapter in their life. And who really didn't like this the most were the coaches who were trying to figure out who's going to be on my roster. Right? We're paying these guys, but it doesn't matter. And you think back to USC last year, Emmanuel Preon, perfect example. You thought you had him. You renegotiated with him before the bowl game. You thought you had a deal in place, plays the bowl game, and then he takes off and go gets more money somewhere else. So all that type of stuff's going on. So I guess the NCAA, they agreed and say, you know what? we're going to move the transfer portal start date to the early part of January. We're going to remove that from the month of December. It's not really a fix, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what you should anticipate from the NCAA. I mean, they're completely useless. They are impotent. I mean, literally, they are just, in today's college football landscape, they have zero power. Zero. They're like Eric Hartman riding around on his big wheel. Respect my authority. Respect what? What are you going to do? So again, even though the portal isn't open officially until January, players are now just saying, all right, well, I'm going to enter the portal. So when it does open, I'll be there. So that's not a fix. I mean, this sport cannot continue the way it's set up right now, the way it's structured. You can't have the playoffs and then all of a sudden you've got coaches leave. I think Ole Miss is going to the playoffs. Lane Kiffin is going to LSU. And he's taking his starting quarterback with him. It's just a bad look. I don't know how you fix this, but this type of stuff, you gotta, if the NCAA wants to flex, they gotta figure out some rules where, you know what? You cannot do any of this stuff until the season is completely over. And again, I don't know how you do that because you got the early signing period. And yes, you moved the transfer portal and you eliminated the spring transfer portal, but you can't stop people from saying, well, I'm still leaving. And now all of a sudden you're going through your bowl preparation without guys. It's the wild, wild west. So Coach Riley's right. Right now, unless you're winning and you're paying well as well, it's nearly impossible to manage the month of December. It really is. I mean, think about it. USC already has 4 guys who have announced for the transfer portal. Brian Jackson, DJ Jordan, Braylon Conley, Gus Cordova. Now, look, I think most people probably anticipated DJ jumping into the transfer portal, but those other guys, it's a little confusing to me. They would have saw a lot of practice time getting ready for the bowl game, and they would also be playing in the bowl game. So that's just the nature of the beast right now, right? It's eat or be eaten. All right. I'll have more on the football team on tomorrow's episode of Locked on USC, where all the players who signed, all that kind of good news coming up. But the men of Troy, they were up there in Eugene. They took their 7-0 record, number 24 in the country. Took it on the road. Are they still undefeated? I'm about to let you know. See the smile on my face? Spoiler alert. So yeah, USC, they're still undefeated. They're 8-0. They beat the Ducks. Feels good. I think that's the first time in like the last 6 meetings. So they broke a 5-game losing streak against Oregon. Final score was 82-77. Again, USC went up there. They were number 24 in the country, 7-0. First road game of the year, first true roadie, and first game of conference play. They kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start. They were playing without Rodney Rice for the second game in a row. He's got that shoulder issue. As far as the first half, Oregon led pretty much the entire first half. They hadn't, and what was so frustrating, and this always happens against USC, Oregon is like the worst 3-point shooting team in the conference. They hadn't shot the ball well all year. Well, they did in the first half. I mean, they were lights out. It was crazy. They led by as many as 10 points a couple of times in the first 20 minutes. But USC used an 11-2, actually a 14-2 run over the last 3+ minutes or so. And eventually they cut the lead to 37-36. Jacob Kofi, he 2-hand slammed that thing back home, cut the lead to 1. And then with 27 seconds to play, under 30 seconds, right around there, freshman Jerry Easter tied the game with a free throw. And then Chad Baker-Mazara, he stole the pass off the inbound, and USC took their lead, 39-37, before halftime. It ended tied at 39 at half. In the second half, So first half, USC was literally carried by Jacob Kofi. He's not known for scoring, but he led the team. And Chad Baker Mazzara, he was also chipping in as well. But it was pretty much the Jacob Kofi show. Second half started, my man Ezra Asara showed up. He was on the bench early with a couple of fouls, so scoreless. I didn't even think he got a shot off in the first half. But yeah, when he was able to play in the second half, man child. I love one. He's my favorite player. He just plays with so much energy, so much tenacity, physical, man. I think with Casey Jacobson, who was calling the game on FS1, called him the human jackhammer. Dude is just violent. I love that type of player. Blue collar. Anyways, Jacob Brownell and Ryan Cornish. If you haven't seen Cornish before, redhead, he looks like a really grown-up version of Opie, Ron Howard. Remember from Andy Griffith? Richie Cunningham, Happy Days. Anyways, so cool to have those two guys. Serious outside shooting threats. That's their job. That's all they do. Catch and shoot. And they do it really well. Brownell had, I think, at least 3 triples. Cornish had a couple. He actually played really good defense. Young man transferred over from Dartmouth. So he's got that Ivy League smarts to him. Plays smart. Good ball player. Fundamentally sound. And in the second half, it was kind of a nip and tuck type of game, back and forth. We know how much the referees suck in football in the Big Ten Conference. Guess what? They are just as bad in basketball. Whoa. Did you know this rule existed? I didn't, and neither did the announcers in the game. So one official called charging, the other official called blocking on the same play. Right? What? You would think, well, all 3 of them would get together and say, well, no, we have to make a decision. It's not how it rolls in the Big Ten Conference. One called a charge, one called a block. They both count as a foul. It's like offsetting penalties. What? It makes no sense. Whatever. I just have to get used to how crappy the officiating is in this conference in the 2 sports that I love the most. So again, tight back and forth game in the second half. You know what? You're going to love it. You've got to get out to Galen Center this Saturday. USC is going to be hosting Washington. This is a tough, gritty, high-energy team. They don't quit. They play the game the way you want the game played. Right? There's not a lot of high-flying stars. They're athletic, they're long, they can make stuff happen, but they play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Defense first. They share the ball until Chad Baker Mazzara touches it. He's getting better. But yeah, I like what Eric Musselman has brought to this program. Definitely. So Asar, big, huge second half presence. No points in the first half. He finished with double figures by the end of the game. Dude just brings it. You don't want to mess with him in the paint. He will get to the free throw line at least 8 to 10 times a game. Man, I think he came close to matching that. Jerry Easter, love that freshman. Dude plays defense, also makes his free throws, which is huge. So yeah, USC 82, Oregon 77 on the road in Eugene. Huge win, 8-0. They're going to host Washington Saturday afternoon. Get your butts out there to Galen Center. I think it's a 3:00 tip-off. They're looking for a blackout. Go ahead and oblige. I would prefer a gold out or a cardinal out, but whatever. Take what you can get. Just get fans in the stands. That's the most important thing. But you know what? They're 8-0 right now. They could improve to 9-0. And when the weekend is over, they will definitely jump up in the polls from number 24. They should be inside the top 20. So I'll keep you updated on that when it happens. I'll keep you updated on everything that's going on with recruiting. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for another episode of Locked On USC. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.